Hello and welcome to East to West WLS, the podcast, where we support the bariatric community with humor, humility, and honesty. I'm April and I'm the West.
And I'm Jason and I'm the East.
Today we are so excited to be welcoming Melissa Reese to the podcast. Hi, Melissa.
Hey.
She is the founder of Harbor Total Wellness. And Melissa and I kind of have an interesting get to know you story. When I moved here to Gig Harbor about 2 or 3 years ago, I wanted to find a new home gym. And I called around to all the local ones. And Melissa was one of the first women that I spoke to. And I was jazzed because you really kind of focus on supporting women in the community. And I was like, oh, this is going to be awesome. We had an amazing conversation. Your gym just sounded phenomenal. And I was super stoked. I was going to try out my first class. And then COVID hit. And then it's been like, life has changed for absolutely everybody. So then when we were looking for guests to bring on the podcast to focus on kind of movement and wellness, your name was brought up or was recommended to me from somebody else. And then when you and I spoke on the phone, I was like, wait a minute. I've talked to you before. This feels so familiar because we had actually connected 2 years before.
That's such a funny story. I remember that too.
Right? Very, very, very small world. Yep. But it's okay. Today we are super excited to really kind of explore this concept of wellness. We know that you own your own gym. You are an advocate for just really all things wellness, for movement and nutrition, and that you are a very busy human. So on top of owning your own business, you have multiple children. You are expecting another child. You have a firefighter husband. So you are just like managing this Fortune 500 company. And yet you still manage to make wellness and movement a part of like your everyday life. We don't know how you do it, but we're hoping you're going to share that with us today. Awesome. So, Melissa, just real briefly, will you let our listeners and our followers know, like, just who you are, what makes you, or what's led you to this point in your life today?
Yeah. So I mean, growing up, I started sports at 3 years old. So I started soccer at 3. So I've always been in something, whether it's community with teams or activity. I've just been always into I don't really think I was into fitness at 4 years old, but I was in that realm of the world. And so as I grew up, I, played sports through high school, and then I got scholarships through college. And so it just kind of ended up being a trajectory of fitness was just the way of life. I didn't really realize that it helped with so many anxiety issues that I had, just other little stuff that you don't know you have when you're growing up, but when you work out, it just releases a lot of excess tension, anxiety, nervous energy, whatever. So I've always been into that. Nutrition, on the other hand, not always into. Growing up, I playing so many sports, I could get away with eating really whatever I wanted, but it wasn't always the most nutritious ideas,
Mm-hmm.
And so getting after college and then, I worked on cruise ships for about 5 years after college, but coming back after that, I got into doing bikini shows, which sounds totally vain, but it taught me totally about nutrition because it was obviously you had to work out, but half of what you looked like was your food. So for the first time ever in my life, I worked out less and I ate ridiculously clean, healthy all day long. And I saw results that I was like, how was I not looking like that when I played 3 hours of soccer every day? Well, I drank beer in college and I ate bagels, there was no nutrition goal, and nobody taught. That's the thing, is nobody taught that. Go have pasta and garlic bread and then go play soccer for 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And you wonder why we crash. And so why I'm passionate about it now is yes, going through all the years of being in athletics and learning that exercise helped in so many ways. And then when I tied in the food part, I was like, I am never going back to eating like that again. I feel good. I'm now seeing results that I wish I would have had in college. Oh my God, I would have been a way better athlete, fueling your body right. So I think just kind of that trajectory of path that I went on with being obsessed with sports, doing those bikini shows, learning about nutrition, and then getting into CrossFit was when it kind of catapulted, because I could compete with it again. It was a sport. It wasn't just
Mm-hmm.
go to a class. I was like, oh, I could be you know, or like I got like competitive people with me, like it just fueled everything for me. And then with eating correctly, it just really helped me get better at at CrossFit and recovery and things like that. So I've kind of always been a nerd with working out. I've loved it since literally I cannot remember. Food was something that I learned. And I probably didn't really honestly learn it until I was 27. So I'll be 39 this year. But up until 27, I was in college. I worked on cruise ships, which I tried to eat healthy, but I didn't really know what food meant at that point either.
Yeah.
But learning it through doing those bikini shows and understanding what nutrition does, that was the biggest takeaway that I took from that year of my life was like, oh my God, I did not know that food does this, or it helps with, because I suffer from anxiety. So I've done a lot of research on what foods trigger anxiety, what foods help with nervous energy, what foods can you stay away from that aren't going to cause, certain, the booze blues after. There's a lot of different things that you can monitor that I found out while I was eating so clean. I was like, oh my God, I've never felt so clear-minded in my life. Is this because of the food I'm eating? And so that grabbed a hold of me being like, if I feel this good, I really want to help other people feel just as good as doing that, and then that led into me doing Advocare, which was a nutrition and wellness supplement company that I did for, oh Lord, 10 years up until 2019 when it all went away. They didn't, I don't want to get into all that, but it went away. You can buy the supplements, but my business was gone in an email. So 10 years of all my hard work was gone. And I thought, well, I could still help people. I'll just do my own thing. So that's when I started this Harbor Total Wellness, so that I had been in the industry for 11 years of health and nutrition and wellness. I thought, well, let me do what I've learned and put myself through for the past 11 years and just do my own thing instead of jumping back into, different stuff.
Yep.
Well, it's good that you mentioned that too, because I know a lot of people, when depending on what program they're on with weight training and working out and things like that, a lot of people have that misconception: to bulk, you've got a carb load, you've got to do all this, and got to have the carbs to be able to feed your body to be able to build the muscle. And so it's good to know that, you have learned from, like you said, from your bikini shows and things, that there's different ways that you can go about building that same muscle and feel a lot better while you're doing it.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, for us, for bariatric patients and for people who are thinking about having bariatric surgery, and then especially after we've had the procedure, you very quickly realize, okay, wait a minute, the surgery is actually a very small piece of my story, because it's all about the food that you consume and the quantities, and you not eating when you all of a sudden feel full. And the more research that we do, the more conversations that we have with people, it just continues to come back to the quality of the food that you take in, of what you eat and drink. And we get messages from people all the time, and we see people always, asking like, oh, I've regained weight, what do I do? And, half the comments are, well, you need to work out more, you need to do this, or you need to do that. And Jason and I are always just like, no, you need to focus on what you're eating. You need to track what you're eating. You need to focus on your macros. You need to look at the quality of your ingredients. The number one thing that I took away from my time being a Weight Watcher was that fitness happens at the gym. Weight loss happens in the kitchen, right? And when you combine those two things, that mental clarity that you talked about is one of the first, I think, like positive effects that you notice about bariatric surgery, is that all of a sudden this fog of food is lifted. And when you're taking in less food, right, your body can process what you're doing. When you're thinking critically about what you are eating, everything changes. Absolutely everything. And it's so hard to describe to people what it's like to live as an obese person, because you just don't know how foggy your life has been until you are not that way anymore. I always share it on the podcast. I remember we just built this house, we'd gotten moved in. I think I was maybe 2 or 3 months post-op. And I remember sitting in a chair and I was just thinking like, what is going on? I have so much free time. Or it's just like my brain, like, I just can't believe it was just such an odd feeling. And then I realized, oh my God, before surgery, 90% of my day and 90% of my brain's capacity was dedicated to food. food related. Like it was thinking about it, prepping it, shopping for it, obsessing over it, eating it, zoning out, right? And then when it goes away, you're just like, holy shit, right? So the power of nutrition and the power of thinking about what we are eating and what we are consuming is key to finding lasting success, right? Before and after surgery.
Totally. And because I was a CrossFit coach in Seattle for 3 years, and very successful, huge gym. So saw a lot of people, and you get to know who they are, and you'd see them stay the same, and they're in there sometimes double days,
Mhm.
So I never, until you get to know them, you can't be like, why are you here again?
Yeah.
But I just remember asking, like, I know you now. What's your food like? Because I love you, but you've looked, I mean, nothing's changing. And I know you're
Yeah.
coming back twice a day now to get more results. You ain't going to find it that way.
No.
Like exercise determines the shape of your body. Nutrition lets you know whether you're going to see that or not. Like if you took this hour instead of coming back here and you food prepped or you ate something different, you're going to regain a lot more out of this hour here than you are coming into this gym trying to sweat it out. Like I tell people, I'd rather not work out for a damn month.
Yeah.
You can take that hour that you working out, because that's the only hour you have free for your day. Take it to food prep.
Dude.
Food prep, and you will look different in a week from now if
Yes.
you did that instead of working out and not eating right.
Oh, dude. Jason and I are the perfect example of that. I lost 120 pounds and I did zero activity. Jason, how much have you lost? And you've done no activity.
169 pounds.
Right.
And we haven't done anything like what you would consider a workout. I mean, Jason and I, we walk constantly, like we're doing housework and yard work. So it's not like we're not moving, but we're not doing like prescribed workout. And we've lost, almost 400 pounds, or over 300 pounds combined.
If I get on a day that I don't do any kind of yard work or anything else, if it's a normal day where I just work from home like I've been doing and take care of my grandbabies, if I get 5,000 steps in a day, I'd be shocked.
Yeah. Yep. And we know that our overall health, right? To live a long, healthy, fulfilling life, movement has to be a part of it, right? We have to keep our bones strong, our muscles strong. Like we are not saying you can live on the couch and have a long, healthy life, because you cannot. But when you incorporate solid nutrition and nutritional principles with movement, you are going to have a quality of life that you have never had before in your life. You will have the healthy, vibrant, long life that you have always dreamed for. But it's just going to take some effort. And really, that's kind of what our conversation is it's what it's about today, right? We want to know what is wellness? What does it mean to you? How can we make nutrition and movement something that we always do in our busy lives instead of something that really kind of falls on the back end? And then, what are your recommendations for people who just don't know where to start, right? Because a lot of us are in that boat. We've had the surgery, we're feeling good, we've dropped a significant amount of weight, and now we're looking to the long term. So I think this is just going to be a really insightful and meaningful conversation for people within our community and even not in the bariatric community, right? Because you're an individual, you've never had bariatric surgery. You're just passionate about helping people live their healthiest lives. Yep.
Where do you want me to start?
Well, let's just start at the beginning. What is wellness, right? Like we were kind of talking earlier, this is like a super trendy topic,
Right.
Right? Like you can throw wellness on a box of cookies and it might sell really well. So, right. So I guess, so what is wellness? What does it mean to you? And when you hear that word, what do you wish everybody knew about it?
I think, wellness to me isn't just, looking good in a bikini or losing a bunch of weight. It's overall, I think, mind, body, and soul. Your mind's got to be well, your body's got to be well, everything's got to be well for you to be well. I think a lot of people just focus on one component of wellness, whether it's like, I got to lose weight or I got to get lean muscle or I got to do this, but they don't realize if this isn't well, nothing else is going to even happen. Mm-hmm. So wellness to me is just finding what you love, finding what you're passionate about and doing that. Like if I'm passionate about CrossFit, that's great. You might be like, I hate CrossFit, but find something you're passionate about and do that. Whether it's, walking, swimming, biking. I think a lot of times people try to do what they see people they do that they follow. And in reality, they're like, I don't even want to lift a weight. Like, and but then
Yes.
they're not, they need to find their own well-being for them. So that's why, I try to like, for when I coach people, like, what do you like to do? You don't have to tell me today, but like, what do you like to do? Write it out. Is it walking, biking, gardening, swimming, playing? Like, what do you like to do that gets you motivated or gets you feeling excited? Write that down, and then what do you do for your brain? Are you filtering it with, negativity? Are you following, usually people are following inspirational, fitspirational, people and things like that. But what are you doing with your mind to get your body to do what you want to do? Because motivation comes and goes just as quickly as that. So you're not going to be motivated every day. I can tell you I'm not motivated every day, but I've found principles that I'm passionate about, that I know, all right, if you do this, this will happen for the rest of your day. If you don't do this, this is how the rest of the day is going to go. So it's finding exercise, whatever that is for you, wellness, what you love, mindset, like what do you read? What do you want to follow? What will, when you find your why, why you get surgery or why are you losing weight, it has to be something that's not, I don't want to say the word superficial, but, I'm going on vacation in 10 days. I'm like, that's superficial.
Yeah. Well, because when your vacation's done, so goes your motivation.
You know what I mean? I'm like, where in your gut, like what's causing you to want to look good on vacation? Or is it stem back from, well, I grew up heavier and like I made fun, there's just so many different avenues, all that can go, that until your why is like gut wrenching to you, to where either you cry, you feel sick, or you feel like you fucking had it. That's what's going to make you be well, because you're like, okay, I know the pros and cons of, if I don't do this, this is the way it's going to go. If I do this, this is the way it's going to happen, so that people can kind of be well mindseted going into it. Because if you don't have the mindset switched on before they want to do the action of losing weight or whatever their goal is, it's not going to happen. So wellness for me is, you got to be connected with all of it. You got to have your mind right, you got to have your body right, you got to kind of, not necessarily your soul, right? But it's all connected, mind, body, and soul, so that when you're in something or you commit to something, you're all in. There's not one part of you that's out, there's not one part of you that's in. You're fully present in that moment.
Yeah.
And then you feel good. I think, even your mind, I think when you can get your mind right, everything else will work very well. And I only say that because I've worked with so many people that I could give them a meal plan and say, that will get you results. And they ain't going to follow it if they're not right,
Yeah.
So it's starting very slowly of like, get your body right, find something that you love to do exercise wise, get your mind right, find something you read or follow, or, any type of inspiration that you feel will help you get there. And then write out your pros and cons of what your day in life will be like when you do it, and what it will be like if you don't do it. And when you write that stuff out and you see the difference of how your day and your life will go, it's very easy to be like, oh, okay, this is way more beneficial than this. But if it's just in your mind, it doesn't compute the same, I don't think. So that's kind of wellness to me in a whole nutshell, is you really got to find what you're passionate about in the exercise world. It doesn't have to be what your best friend does. It can be what you do. Brain wise, mental wise, like how do you get there? How do you fuel your mind to be ready to go? And then really your why is the other one that I think will help you stay in that wellness realm. Finding that deep purpose of why you want to do it is what's going to help you be disciplined and consistent to get there. Because if you're solely purely going off motivation, it won't get you very far.
No, I really love, you brought up a couple of things that I absolutely resonate with. And what almost nobody talks about is what you said. You have to really be careful about who and what you follow, right? Because that really plays a huge role in your success. But before weight loss surgery, I was following a bunch of fitspiration, or the workout gurus on Instagram. And it was one thing to watch them and to see what they were doing, but it never really resonated with me because I knew that I could never be a size 2. I was never going to have a 12 pack like that. It's just not me. So instead of finding motivation from following those people, I was actually doing the opposite. I was harming myself more. And when I was at my heaviest, a close friend of mine was like, I don't know, she asked me like, why aren't you following plus size models? Why aren't you following plus size, like clothing companies? And I was like, well, like, why would I? Like, that's, that doesn't seem, it seems counterintuitive to what my goal is. But, her reasoning really helped me kind of get to this point where it was like, you have to live your life at whatever size and shape you are. It doesn't matter. All that matters is that you are living it to the fullest extent. So I thought, okay, right. Like I that makes some sense. So I unfollowed a bunch of people and I followed a bunch of plus size models and Co-Edition and all these, plus size brands, because I was plus size. I still am plus size. But as soon as I started following them, my mindset really did shift, because now all of a sudden it was like, oh, well, look at all these amazing things they're doing and they're my size. So what the hell have I been doing this entire time? And as soon as that happened, I found that I was more active. I was happier, right? I was eating differently, not because I was being shamed by it, but because I was inspired to live my best life. And I think that also is so true after you have had bariatric surgery. You need to find people and groups and things that inspire you to live the life that you want to live, that's right for you, right? Not necessarily what somebody else is doing, because and just like what you said, we can go get a meal plan anywhere. Our surgeons and our doctors should have given us a meal plan, right? But if we're having a difficult time following that meal plan, then we're missing the mindset piece. And you're only going to find it by looking up to people who are living their best lives in the healthy ways that we need to after bariatric surgery. And people just don't think about that. Not at all. So when you were working with your clients at the gym, like you were saying, right, these people were showing up for like double CrossFit days, and you had this conversation with them about nutrition. What did they say, or like how was that taken?
Well, like I said, I believe timing and all of that. I mean, I waited a while till they got to know me. I didn't want to be like, and I mean, coming from somebody at that point in my life when I was coaching, I was extremely fit. I was the one, with the 6-pack, and the one that people would have been like, screw you, like, oh, it must be really shitty to be fit, but
Yeah.
little did they know like the amount of work that I put in to doing that. But still, I always wore baggy clothes. I mean, they made fun of me, like, God, you look like a bum in here. Like, baggy clothes. I just was never about showing it off. I just wanted to look good for me. And I know it can be very intimidating to anybody to come in. And I mean, I get intimidated when I go to a gym and I'm like, oh shit, they got a sports bra on. I'm like, I know I look okay, but God, now I feel weird. And so I wanted to be a easy approach to where they trusted me, they liked me, and they knew I was coming from a place of like, I'm not trying to call you out, I'm just trying to help you. So I would wait a little bit, but I read people's body language all the time, and there'd be days where I could see frustration, or when they're coming in, and I'd always say, hey, why are you coming in? What's up? What's the 2 days? Are you looking to like compete? Are we looking to get stronger? They're like, no, we want to lose weight. And I'm like, oh. I'm like, okay, well, can you tell me what's your nutrition like? And they're like, I do paleo. I'm like, okay, paleo's great. Like, you cut things out and whatnot. I go, well, what are your macros with your paleo? And they're like, what do you mean? Well, you can't eat all the nuts you want, and you can't eat all the dried mango, because I knew a lot about paleo. And I was like, so I think you're at a good place, but like, you don't know how much you're eating of it. And they're like, no, it's paleo. We're eating whatever we want. I was like, okay, there's a problem. So I was like, you're doing very well, making great, you're not eating burgers and fries and ice cream, but still too much of the good stuff leads to weight gain too. So I would just, I always was like, if you ever want to learn about what your macros could be, or how much your body should be taking of the good stuff you're doing, so I don't want to change your food, let me know. Because I think if you tailored things to maybe what your goals are in the gym, because that was another hard question, was, do you want to be, it was hard in CrossFit, because do you want to have performance or weight loss? You can't necessarily have both when you want to lose weight and you want to have performance, because calorie in, it's just totally different ball game. So I would have to kind of be like, do you want to be here, or are you looking to lose weight? And if you're looking to lose weight, I can help you fix some of this. If your performance, then you got to own where you're at. Because if you want to be stronger and do other things like that, I don't want to cut things from you because you feel really good in the gym and you're performing awesome. But if we start to tailor things down a little bit, just to cut your macros a bit, you might lose a little bit of energy in the beginning. And I don't want to take the focus off your fitness if that's your goal. So it kind of would turn into that conversation where it was balls in their court, knowing, oh, I can't really do both. I'm like, well, you can eventually. But if you want to lose weight, we got to get that off first. And then we can work our way back up to being here. So it just kind of turned into, you know, no one ever got mad at me. I can say, at least for, I mean, to my face. I just tried to approach it with like a really natural way of like, I'm not calling you out. I'm just really wanting, you work your ass off. And like, I see that you're working so hard and I want you to get the benefits of what you're doing. And I think I can help if we just switch some things around. And then I left it, you know, and then and then some of them were like, hey, could you maybe help me with that? Or some of them didn't change a thing, but years would go down the road and they remember the conversation. They're like, hey, I totally remember you talking to me about that. I think I'm ready to fix something because I'm freaking tired of being here 4 hours a day. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
cool. You know, so just kind of setting it up where it was very open-ended. It never had like, you gonna do it? You know, it was more of like, you just come to me, but I just want you to know that I can be a resource for you depending on where your goals are, because I do, you know, I could catch your vibe and your vibe is a bit down today. And I want to make sure you're okay. You know, I think even somebody saying, are you okay? Doesn't happen very often. You know, everybody's kind of into their own thing, but as a coach, I just always would look at people's body language and demeanor. And I was like, oh, you know, you never know who's checking up on them, or you never know what shit they're going through. And even if they want to tell me nothing but F you, I eat fine, at least they know that I was like, are you all right?
Yeah.
You know,
It's a foot in the door, right? To start that conversation.
I just want to make sure you're okay because you just seem a little bit off today. And
Yeah.
it always kind of caught them off guard a bit, but then they were like, no, I feel like I'm working really hard and nothing's changing. And then that was a very easy in to kind of assessing what they, you know, want to discuss, I guess.
Well, and that kind of defeat is one of the worst that you can kind of face as somebody who's trying to change their body, whether it be losing weight or building muscle or that kind of thing. To put so much into a program like that, who you look around and can see around the room, other people are getting such amazing results from, and to know that something with you's not computing with the program. And a lot of people don't know off the top that nutrition plays such a big role in that, because some people just know, oh, you go work out a whole bunch and then you just eat, you know, don't eat so bad and I'll look like, you know, they do on TV. Because we've been sold that lie for so many years. It's hard for the truth to make its way to the top and say, no, it's got to be this actual, you got to follow more than one program at a time to be able to get that type of success. And, you know, even then it's going to be really tough. You've got to put the work in. So that's the kind of defeat you want to try to keep everybody from having, because, hey, you don't want them to bash whatever program it is they're trying and not getting success from. And you don't want them to fall off the wagon and go back to eating like, you know, however they ate before, just gain all their weight.
Well, and really, I mean, Jason, this just reminds me of like what every bariatric patient experiences like month 9 to 12 is that, right? That first year is when we lose most of our weight. It's when our tool is quote unquote most effective, right? So you do nothing. It feels like you're doing nothing and you drop just a massive amount of weight. And all of a sudden you get to that point where your body's like, okay, like we could live here forever if you just keep doing exactly what you're doing. But usually that number is not the number that you want to see. So then you start having this conversation of, okay, wait, am I stalled or have I slipped? Or am I just not doing the work? And at that point, you really have to commit to nutrition, right? I have to commit to my macros. I really need to put in the work, because only then do you start to go to go down again. And it's just such a struggle because you just don't want to do it. Tracking is not something that we've ever been good at. And it's time consuming. It can be time consuming. So that's kind of my next question. How do you help people get over the hump of like of tracking? Because that's what you're talking about, right? You have to know what you are taking in to be able to make those adjustments.
Right. For me, I, just because I work with so many different types of people, from OCD people like me that are like, I'll track all day long. Like this gets me high. I love it. To people that are like, you want me to do what with the scale?
Yeah.
Like that stresses me out. And I'm like, okay. And so for me, I have to go back to it, which is hard because I'm like, oh, it's really not that hard, but I have to say, yo, check yourself, Melissa. This is like when I started, sounds so stupid and funny, but when I started the Dave Ramsey money program where, you get out of debt and you do all the little steps and all that stuff you talk about, I was like, shit, I gotta write.
Oh yeah.
I gotta write all this down. And I was like, oh my God, I can't do all these steps at once. And he's like, it's easy, and I was like, oh, this is my people who are like flip-flopped, and I'm like, stressed about how the fuck do I make my envelopes? And what do I do? And I'm like, they're like, yo, it's money, chill out, you'll figure it out. But I was like, oh my God, I'm those people who are overwhelmed with what I tell them to do. Like, I get it. Oh shit, I gotta slow my roll. So as funny as it was, Dave Ramsey sort of saved myself in bringing myself to check it, going, this stuff is intimidating for a lot of people, even though it might not be for you. You got to remember what it was like when you were doing Dave Ramsey.
Yes.
So I tell people, what's your commitment level? Like where are you at? What can you commit to? What does not stress you out? And then we list them out. Okay. So here are suggestions. We can macro count. This means we plug everything into MyFitnessPal, XYZ. That's this. Or we can portion control. You can weigh, you can measure, you can do your food. Or this is all here and you're like, I ain't doing none of that. Where can we start tomorrow then? What are you doing today that maybe you shouldn't be doing? Well, you get a chocolate every night. Okay, is that something you want to cut out? I think I can commit to that. Cut it out. Okay, what's one thing you can do tomorrow that's good for you? Do you eat breakfast? Do you drink water? What's your morning routine? I have coffee and maybe I have string cheese and some almonds. Okay, are you hungry and full off that? Well, I don't know. So it's more of what breakfast can we get you doing tomorrow morning that's going to help you start your day off right? And you're cutting out chocolate. There's your 2 things. Let's do it for a week. Be done. You know what I mean?
Oh.
Be done. Like, don't try to weigh and portion all your shit out. Just do 2 things and nail it. So when I follow up with you a week from now, you have 7 days of saying, Melissa, I've eaten breakfast. This is what I've made. I've drank 2 things of water in the morning, and I've cut out chocolate. Okay, there's 3. Money, own them. Own them until they are like no longer stressful. So then when they're like, oh, I can do breakfast now. It's like, I'm not even thinking about it. Awesome. What's the rest of your day like? Well, then, then I get into their nutrition. I'm like, well, how about we switch out the bagel for lunch for maybe like a whole wheat wrap? Or, like little changes. They're like, oh, I can do that. I'm like, cool. There's your 4th goal. So now they have water, breakfast, no chocolate at night, and whole wheat tortilla. Those are 4 massive changes that they're not realizing they're changing when you do it very simplistic over a week to 2 weeks to 3 weeks. And if it's 8 weeks down the road, there's 8 new habits, you're losing weight. Stuff's changing. So I have to work with the right type of mindset with someone to do it in steps and increments where it doesn't, because if it stresses you out, you're done. You're done. I mean, I got that with Dave Ramsey, and I had to sit down and make a list of what I could literally do a day to not make it so overwhelming. And I was like, I can't do all this in the beginning. I'm gonna fizzle out. And I know that's what people will do when you're like, go macro, go count, go weigh all your food, and then you go work out too. Go do that, because then you'll be set. And they're like, forget it, I'm out.
Well, and that's so many people think they've got to encompass all of it at one time, because they're like, oh, well, you've had the surgery, now you're not going to lose anymore until you start, really tracking and weighing out, and you got to work out. So go ahead and make that happen and make sure you're still losing weight, and have a good time and be successful. And people are just like, well, what the hell does that mean? Like, how do I know? I don't even know where to start. Like, most of these people, like that you have never even been, like, they're not fans of working out, so they may have been to a gym once or twice, but they'll go run around on the treadmill, look at everybody else, get overwhelmed, and go home. Like, they just and eat a bag of popcorn. Like, they're just not
and dumb, you know, and like they're not doing something correctly. And there's a lot of intimidation that goes into walking into a gym. Only from seeing it from my perspective of coaching, I can feel it when people are intimidated and when they're nervous. And if there's not someone there that's recognizing that or has a support group within, that's why I mean I love CrossFit because of all of it offers, but I love it for the community most of all because they will bring anyone in and it's like, yo, you're here, high five. You know, people can they vibe off each other and it's a community part of it. But yeah, if you tell people to start doing all of that right off the bat, it's so overwhelming. But there are individuals that are like, done, I can do that. You know, and so that's where I have to find when I talk to people where their mindset is, what their personality is like, what if they're, you know, type A, OCD, if they're very list oriented and very like da 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 da, they love macro counting. They love portioning stuff out. But if they're like, I don't even know if I have food scale, then I'm like, whew, we're not even going there. We're just gonna start with little tiny habits and we're gonna document them all so that when, you know, 6 months from now, let's say it takes them and we just do little habits, they're like, oh my gosh, look at all the stuff that I have been doing for 6 months that I didn't even know I was doing because I was doing it very week by week and doing it very strategically so that I didn't get overwhelmed. And that's what I love doing the most is I can, yes, give people plans and yes, I can have them macro count and yes, I can give them all their macros. And those people I still follow up with and check up with to make sure things are going good, but it's the ones that I know that they're like, that's not, and I don't want to assume, so I gotta ask. You know, and I'm like, don't be embarrassed. Like, if you're like, girl, no, I'm not doing that. That scares me. Then let's just start. Let's start from square one. And I have to be, you know, and they're like, yeah. And you know, I've had one person say, I'm really embarrassed to tell you because I know that you like are really good about your food, and I know that you're really diligent. I'm like, let me tell you about my Dave Ramsey. And she's like a CPA. She's like, girl, you're stressed out about Excel sheets. I'm like, oh God, I won't even touch an Excel sheet. It stresses me out. She's like, oh God, that's my favorite thing in the world, you know? So I'm like, see, I stress about things that you are freaking good at.
Yes.
And I'm good at this because I love it. And you're stressed out about it because it's not really your thing. So just let each other help out and where our strengths are. Because yeah, if you want to make me an Excel sheet, show me how to use it, I need help. You know, help I can get. Where it's, you know, it's vice versa. So I try to relate, even though it's not in the same, you know, component of weight loss or food prep, because I'm not gonna lie and say that I'm not good at it. It's something that I love, but I struggle with other stuff that other people are amazing at. That they would, you know, that like, don't just put me up here. I got some stuff that I'm not good at either. You're just coming to somebody who knows what they're doing in this realm. And if you came to me for a math Excel sheet, you know how dumb I am. So let's not worry about that. So it's just helping people feel comfortable, you know, and then letting them tell me what they can commit to, because I don't want to be somebody that says, do this, do that. Because at the end of the day, when it doesn't work, guess who they're coming after?
Yeah. Well, and I think the other power in that strategy is that, you know, for many of us in the bariatric community, we very much have an all or nothing mindset, right? So it's like, I have to do all the things at one time to be successful. And then when you attempt to do all the things and you don't meet your goals, then you go, oh, well, I guess I screwed it all up. So now my day's blown, right? So then you go back to your old ways of coping, which usually involves food. And then that kicks you into the shame cycle. So now I feel bad about eating that. Now, you know, now everything is bad. And then the only way that I fix that is I eat, right? So then you're just going back to your old habits. So I think, you know, having that honest conversation with yourself about, okay, what can I commit to? And that is the key word, right? Is commit to, because naturally I want to say all the things, but I know I can't commit to all the things. So really, I think, you know, taking your approach and just saying, can I track? Can I weigh my food? Okay, I can't commit to those things consistently, but I can commit to making this one little change and trying and doing that for a week and then seeing how that went and adding things on. It's nice to know that there's really kind of 3 ways that you can start with based on who you are as a person, what your personality is and what you like to do best. And really, you know, find that success along the way and build from that, because I think that's really how you just make this a part of your everyday life, right? Like that's the struggle. Like I want to start something new, but I have to do this for the rest of my life. So, you know, how do these little things become a part of our identity or become a part of what we do every day?
And it's having little wins too. You know, I think when you set yourself up for having to do everything all at once and then you don't succeed or whatever it is right away, then you're like, oh, I couldn't even do that. Well, I can't, you know, if you have little goals where if I'm like, if you have, everybody has down days. So if it's 2 weeks from now that I'm working with somebody and they're like, oh, I just, you know, I'm not having a good day, I'll be like, go back and tell me what your journal says. What have you
Yeah.
done for the past 2 weeks? I've eaten breakfast. Were you doing that 3 weeks
Yeah.
ago? No, I
Yeah.
wasn't. Check
Yeah.
in. What about your water? How's that? Well, I'm measuring my water. I'm like, were you doing that a month ago?
Yeah.
No. Check.
Yeah.
So then they're like, oh my God, I am doing something. Like, you know, they're, even though they seem very tiny and not these big grandiose things, those little tiny consistent steps over a long period of time, you start to see weight loss happen. You start to feel better, but you like have what's what I'm trying to say, confidence in yourself that you can do it, because you can look back and be like, oh my gosh, I have done all these new things. I am working really hard. It just, everything is all or nothing always. And I think people get caught up in that, or they need to lose weight like tomorrow. But it's like, no, give yourself a process with it. Have it be a part of your lifestyle. Don't ever disregard it not being faster than anybody else. Do your own journey and you will get there because you're doing it your way, not Melissa's way or, you know, somebody else's way of doing it. You're owning it and you can work with it. And I think, you know, and I never give a new goal until those ones are mastered. So if they didn't eat breakfast great for 7 days, I'm like, well, there's your goal again for the week.
Yeah.
But I'm like, no, I'm not giving you anything new until you can tell me 7 days in a row
Yes.
you've done it, because I'm not going to add something else if you're not already doing that. What's
Yes.
the point? And they're like, oh, right, you're right. So it's not even like they get stuff every week. It's more of they get stuff when they've shown themselves and, you know, me like, oh, Melissa, I did it. And then they get excited. I'm like, okay, what's our new goal? So it kind of works that way too. So they get excited about it.
Yes. Well, and that reminds me of, this is like Jason knows, I think I show this every single episode because it's my absolute favorite book, Atomic Habits by James Clear. He absolutely talks about this, how the way to master a habit is to start with one thing and you do not add in anything. You don't habit stack, you don't do anything else until you've gotten that one thing down. Like that is progress. And again, I think people think that like, I have to do all these things at once. No, you don't. That's how you kind of set yourself up for failure. If that is your personality, you need to pick one thing that is going to really give you the biggest bang for your buck. It's an area that you are struggling with. And for bariatric patients, it's either got to be your macros, or I always go, it's either protein, water, or vitamins. You have to start there. And if that's going to be where you start, pick one of those things and figure out how you're going to do it consistently, and then continue to do it consistently. And when you get to the point where it just becomes something that you do automatically, now go on to the next thing, right? But if it's like Dave Ramsey, right? He gives you the big picture and here are the 7 steps, but he purposely says you do not do step 2 until you are done with step 1. And it's exactly how we have to really approach our bariatric recovery, right? Step 1 is have the surgery. Step 2 is recover from surgery. Step 3 is like figure out your mental side of things. Why am I freaking out over food, right? What is my why? Step 4, figure out your nutrition. Step 5, incorporate movement as a part of your daily life, right? And then you like get to step 7, it's like enjoy your life. Right? But you have to do these things and you really need to master each step before you really, truly move on to the next one.
Well, and the importance of small wins, celebrating your small wins also factors into that so greatly. And people discount that all the time.
All the time.
And it's just not something that you have to give yourself, like April says, the space and grace to take some time to make these things actually happen for yourself. But you've got to, recognize the fact that you did it. Like you accomplished step 1. So that's awesome. You got to take a second to relish in the fact that you did that. Then you get step 2, then you start working on that. But each step of the way, you got to be like, damn, that's pretty cool. I didn't think I could do that. Now I've tackled it. Now let's move on to the next thing. Or it loses its luster at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Absolutely. So the next area that we're excited to talk to you about is kind of like wellness management. And I don't know if there's a better term for that, but it- I think, people get also overwhelmed when they think like, oh my gosh, I have all these things that I need to do in my day to like find success after bariatric surgery or just, live a healthy life. And it's true. You do have to do some things every single day if you want to be healthy. But you have like a crazy, ridiculous life. You have multiple children. You have a child on the way. You own and run your own business. You've got a husband who has a very, strenuous and also equally demanding job. Yet fitness, movement, and nutrition happen in your day almost every single day. So how do you manage all of that? How do you put your wellness at the top of your list every single day?
I think when it comes down to, I'm super selfish, I like joke about it, but I am selfish with my time for myself, only because I know if I don't do it, I'm a shitty mom. I'm a shitty wife. I'm a shitty friend.
Oh,
I'm not like, I'm not, I'm not as good as I am after I know what I need to do to fill my bucket. That's not going out to, dinners and happy hours. That's like what I need to feel good is going to make the rest of everybody in this household the best it can be. And I think often too many times, especially as moms, they get mom guilt for it. Like, oh, my mom, my kids. I'm like, fuck all that. Like, you will be a better mom to them because you're taking time for yourself. And not that you have to have 2 hours a day, even if it's 30 minutes, do something that fills your cup for a hot second so that you can be a better version of yourself. And I don't think that's selfish at all. There's so much that demands of us all the time. Not that like my husbands don't get demands either, but like at some point you can't just relish in you've forgotten about what makes you happy, because then you are in that nasty ass cycle of resenting everything and getting a funk. So I've always just been, I call myself out. I'm just really selfish with what I know makes me feel really good. And struggling with anxiety, if I don't work out, I'm not a nice person. Like my husband's like, like, I'm just not. The nervous energy that's there. I can
Mhm.
feel it. I'm not myself until that sweat's dripping down my face. And that's maybe from playing sports since I was 3 and I'm 38 years old. And that's my outlet that I never knew was an outlet. But when I'm done, I'm like, oh God, yes. I've checked the box. You never feel shitty after a workout. You're always like, all right, I'm ready to go. My endorphins are flying. And I am addicted to that. So that's not something that I even question. It's just something that like I get up and like you brush your teeth. I get up and I always go to the gym. It's not even like a thought process anymore. It's a part of my daily routine because
Mhm.
I've just done it for so many years now. But what I try and do on the days that I'm pregnant. Shit, I'm almost 7 months pregnant. And I'm like, oh my God, do I really feel like going? I'm tired, but I'm like, you know what your day's gonna be like if you do it, and if you don't, which direction do you want your day to go? Good or bad? And I
Yeah.
get my butt up and I go. You know what I mean? Because I know what I feel like when I'm done. And I think often too many times people can't capture that feeling of doing whatever exercises they love to do and like really love it, and that is what gets me out of bed to do stuff. It's not because I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to the gym, I'm so motivated. It's like, no, I know how good I'm going to feel when I'm done. I've never
Yeah.
regretted it. I'm such a better human being when I get done. Just get up and go. And so
Yeah.
that's the workout part for me. That's what gets me going and continue to go, is because I just know my mental clarity is better. I'm just a better mom. I'm less edgy. And I mean, people might not need to work out every day like I do, but for me, it just is like my anxiety med for
Yeah.
myself. It just helps me clear all of that.
Well, and really what I heard was again what you've kind of already said about, right? Like you're very much in touch with your why, right? Why wellness and why movement is a part of your everyday life. You also know what you enjoy doing with your body. You know how you like to move it. And it's not necessarily being selfish. It's saying I'm going to be the best version of myself if I put myself first. and it's not for necessarily 2 hours a day either, right? I heard you say like it's just recognizing, okay, here's the things that fill my bucket, and maybe today movement is just not going to be something that I can get to, but I can get to journaling, or I can get to meal prep, or I can, fill my water bottle and get my vitamins laid out, right? I can meditate for a little bit, I can do a little bit of stretching, right? So kind of thinking, or thinking about your like menu options of what wellness is to you, and then making that the thing that happens either first or gets like almost scheduled in your day is how you make it a part of your day.
Oh, I mean, I schedule everything into my day. Nothing happens by chance. I could show you the alarms on my phone.
Mm.
And people are like, God, nerd, and I'm like, if I don't schedule it, is it going to happen? I don't know. If I didn't schedule the podcast today with you guys, it might have happened, but it was in my calendar and I made it happen. And so I think a lot of times people are like, oh, I'll get to it. Oh, yeah. And then at the end of the day, they're like, oh, crap, I haven't done the thing. So for me, I always have, my workout time is 9:30. That's the gym class time I've been going to for like legitimately 11 years. It's just 9:30. 9:30 is the time that I go work out. Because I coach, the ladies in my garage in the morning from 6 to 7 and 7 to 8. So 9:30 is my gym time. My kids will come to the gym with me. If they were in school, they know it's mom's time. I tell them, I'm like, hey guys, someday you're gonna have your time, and this is mom's. And if you want mom to be really cool today, we're going to the gym. So they like know that's a part of their, like Mimi, who's 3.5, is like, oh yeah, gym time. Like she just knows that's where we go. So that they're not, it's kind of a part of their little lifestyle too. But for like a nutrition, it's been 11 years now. So it's for me, it's just clockwork. But in the beginning, if I take myself back, I put things in my phone. So I would say, okay, what's your week like this week, Lizzie? Okay. You're really busy tomorrow. Let's not food prep tomorrow. That'll stress you out. Okay. What about, like I would just look at my day and I would schedule it in legit. It would say meal prep and my alarm would go off on like a Sunday at 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. and it'd be like, beep, beep. I'm like, oh yeah, food prep. And I'm like, well, I got to check it off my list. So then I would sit there and I would food prep, but I gave myself an hour. So in that hour, I knew I only had an hour to do it. And I would put on a podcast, or I'd watch like some stupid reality TV show that I never watched. But I was like, if I'm going to do food prep, I want to make it fun. I'm not just going to do it when my kids are 5 o'clock and starving. When I'm tired, you have to do it when it's fun for you. And I can't tell people what time that is of the day or what day of the week it is, but schedule it to where it's not a hassle. Because when it's a hassle, you're not going to do it and you're going to resent it. And then you're like hating all of it. So I always found a time that I'm like, and I look through my week like, okay, oh, that's a good day. I'm going to do it that day. And then I bust it out and then I do it. And then it's checked off my little mark. So, and then just eating, obviously finding your own routine, whether it's, whether people fast or whatever they do, is just finding your routine and kind of sticking with it as much as you can. Because the longer you consistently do something, it, like I said, it's clockwork. I don't even think about it anymore. It's just like, oh yeah, this is what I do every day. But I wasn't like that in the beginning. I had to work really hard at, the gym was always there. I always was like, okay, 9:30, I can commit to that. That's something that I love. I feel good. That's a non-negotiable. But will happen no matter what. And then the food prep, I was like, ooh, now I got to really strategically plan that out. So now I would just plan it out on when I enjoyed doing it. And still, now I have to do it the same way because schedules are crazy. And then eating, my body now tells me when I'm hungry because I'll get, you can feel your blood sugar drop. I'm like, oh, yep, it's been hours. My body knows the way of eating. But if you're not used to eating that way, I used to put alarms in my phone.
Yeah.
And I was like, ding, oh yeah, lunch. Then I eat lunch because if you're not used to eating that often, or whether you fast or whatever it is, you're going to still forget because your body's not in clockwork yet. So that's kind of how I stay, I don't necessarily think people need to be as regimented as I am if they don't want to be. I think everybody's got their own way of factoring in and doing all those things. But for me personally, with having 2 kids who are 7 and 3 and 1 on the way, and my husband's gone, 48 hours a week and then home for 4 days, I am working. I really have to strategize my days or nothing. It won't happen because you can't just leave it up to chance when you're busy. So that's
No.
why I plug it in and I make it happen so that I don't forget. I check it off my little list when my bells ring, and it
Yep.
keeps me structured. And I feel like even though people sometimes don't want structure, everyone thrives off structure.
Well, and yeah, because after bariatric surgery, you really kind of break up with food, right? And you will get to the point where you're like, I don't want to eat. I'm not actually hungry. And you could just not eat. And that's not nutritionally sound either. So we always recommend people like use your phone and set reminders, right? For your vitamins, for your water, and for your food. And I think too that, by scheduling in times for your wellness, by scheduling in your workout, by scheduling in your meal prep, by scheduling in time to the 5 minutes to stop and record what you ate in a tracker,
Right.
means that you are eliminating that excuse of, well, I don't have the time. No, you do have the time, because you actually budgeted it in your day. It's just that you are not feeling motivated to do it, which means you are not really in touch with your why. You're not in touch with the reason that you really want to make these changes. So, it all just kind of leads to the piece that you're missing. Because if you are having trouble with this, then you're missing something, and you're just not going to find success long-term if you just don't do it. So,
Yeah,
right? Like,
it's, and I think, and as nerdy as it is, I made a list of pros and cons. I probably have it somewhere 10 years ago, but each year it changes of what's Melissa's day like when she doesn't do XYZ, and what's Melissa's day like when she does XYZ. And I'll write it out. I'll put down what I feel like, what my anxiousness is like, what my productivity for the day is like. And I hone on the fact that I chose poorly and got a shitty day because of me.
yeah.
Like, that bugs me. If I know A is going to get me here and all I got to do is XYZ because I know I'm going to feel better, and I still choose this, that's when I'm like, no, Melissa, you're going to be like, no, it'll be better if you just do it this way. And that's what keeps me, because it's not motivation, to be honest. It's more of the discipline and consistency of like, I know how good my day is going to be if I go down this road instead of not doing what I know I need to be doing because it's easier and it's more convenient.
Yeah.
And it's a mental battle in my head. Like, I sit there and I'll self-reflect for like a minute. Even like the other day, I was like, oh, do I really want to make my lunch right now? Like, no, I'll just make a shake. And then I was like, well, the shake's gonna make you jittery in like an hour, because you're like, this is the conversations that go in my head.
Yes.
Just get your ass up and go do what's already in the fridge. Like,
Yes.
you make yourself. And after I was done, I was like, yay, me, I did it.
Yes. Jason had that experience the other day, didn't you? It was something with like food. You wanted something else, but you had already meal prepped, and you're like, God, like, why am I even worrying about this? Like, I already did this. I just need to go eat that.
Yes.
Yeah, I got on a kick of making these low carb tostadas and baking them in the oven, and they're so amazing. But I got to the point where I had already meal prepped a bunch of turkey burgers that were just sitting there, and all I had to do is like 20 seconds in the microwave versus the 10 minutes it takes to make these damn tostadas with the elaborate cheese placing and all the sauces and all this stuff. And I'm like, I was really halfway in the pantry grabbing the thing, and I was like, dumbass, turn around, go to the fridge. Because I wasn't even really on a break from work technically. So I was just trying to kind of borrow some time. And I'm like, idiot, you can do this in like 3 seconds versus the other thing that takes like 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And half the time I forget to turn the damn oven off when I get done. And I'm just like, it's such a damn hassle that I'm like, why wouldn't I just microwave this that I've already made?
Yeah.
Because I took the 30 minutes to make them outside on the grill, so they were like I like them. Everything was done, and I'm still trying to talk myself into something completely different that wasn't as helpful.
And I get that. I mean, here's coming from somebody this is my jam, and I still have those thoughts. You know what I mean? So like, it's no matter who you are, everybody is not always motivated. But it was the same thing. I was just like, oh. But then, like, if I was working with you, I'd have been like, hold up, stop for like just a moment and give yourself a fucking high five, because you were mindful enough to catch yourself to do it.
Yeah.
You
There's been a lot of work.
You were like,
a lot of work went into that, but yeah, I finally made it.
Yeah, and you thought about it, and I'm like, that's mindful thinking.
Yes.
You can just be mindful. that's what I do. I'm mindful, think of like, I know what's going to happen if I eat this shake. It's yummy, but I'm going to be so hungry in an hour. Just
Yep.
go eat the shit you made last night. Like, you'll feel better. Well, that's
Yes.
what it is. And you did that, where a lot of people don't think that yet. And
Yeah.
they go for the easier option. So like that right there, I'd have been like, win, done. And you got 2 wins. You ate your burger. You know, your day's great now. You've done way better than grabbing the Tostitos.
Yes. No, dude, Jason and I, we talk about this all the time when people, people will share with us their experiences that they're going through. And he and I always say like, wait a minute. You just said that you stopped and realized that, or you stopped and thought about that. I was like, before surgery, you would have downed 4 of those without even like contemplating it. So let's take a moment and like gold star you on the chart, because look at the changes that you're doing. It's the little like good jobs that we forget to give each other, but those little good jobs lead to more consistent good jobs, right? As you continue to go. And it's just having that internal dialogue, right? When you say like, well, be mindful, nobody knows what that means. We're literally telling you it's having this conversation with yourself about the actions and the things that you're deciding to do. That's what leads you to these, to these healthier decisions.
And my husband's heard me. He's like, what are you talking about? What are you doing? I'm having a conversation with myself about what I know I should be doing right now. So just
Right.
out my nose.
Yeah. Just butt out ABC your way out of my conversation with myself.
And so I tell like that was a great like client moment. If I had ever worked with you, I'd have been like, just hold up for 5 seconds and just be thankful that you fucking thought about that.
Right.
Good
Yes.
job. And people don't ever think. That's the hard part, is like they don't think that that's a win sometimes.
I know. It's because we've been conditioned and we see things because nobody says that that's a win, right? That's why we're saying it's a win.
Such a win. It's such that to me shows you're moving on a committed path to better yourself. And I'm not having to tell you to do it. You didn't call me to say, Melissa, get me off the Tostitos. Okay, put them down. You do that on your own. So whatever you're doing in your own little journey, your mind's clicking with something. And that's how you keep weight off for the years to come.
Yeah.
Little tiny mindful moments like that. It's not like, oh, I lost a bunch of weight. It's like, well, you can tell me all the little steps of how you got there. Not many people will say, well, I have conversations with myself. Or, I talk myself off the edge, like, because you massive wins.
Because you sound crazy, but that's how we start. That's how we make wellness a part of our everyday lives. That's how we put our wellness first, is literally having those mindful moments. So Melissa, where do you recommend that we start then? So if we don't know where to begin our wellness journey, if we don't know how to start with nutrition, if we don't know how to incorporate movement or exercise into our everyday lives, where do you recommend we start?
I think finding a buddy. I think always having some sort of accountability, whether that's a coach, whether that's a friend, whether that's a community, whether that's whatever it is, finding people that are like-minded. It doesn't have to be the same goal or the same, outcome. It can be, you want to better your life, I want to better my life. So whether we have different goals, how can we hold each other accountable? Because I have friends that have goals, but our goals are completely different, but in the same realm of like wellness and being healthy. So we kind of hold each other accountable. So if you finding a group or a coach or something like that to at least help you when you have the bad days, of knowing that someone's there doing it with you. I think finding what it is that you love to do for exercise, it does not have to be who you're following. You know what I mean? Like, I follow a ton of people that do bodybuilding stuff. I don't do any of that anymore, but I follow them because of other aspects that I enjoy about them, whether it's their food. I don't follow them because of their workouts. I follow them of the other little stuff that they post that I like. So it's, finding people that you can relate to, like on social media for workouts, or it's, what do you like doing? If it's swimming, if it's walking, if it's biking, if it's on a Peloton, own something and find something that you really like and just have that be your jam. And if it's not your friend's jam, who cares? It's yours. And you're going to commit to it because you're excited about it. So I think finding something that you love doing exercise-wise, that can be whatever that is for you, finding some sort of accountability, whether it's a group, coach, friend, whatever, and then really stating like why you're doing what you're doing. You know, why do I want to lose the weight? What's going to get me out of bed in the morning? What are things that are deeply rooted of why I'm doing what I'm doing? Because if it's superficial, just losing weight, that doesn't
No.
work. You gotta have something that gets you to the core a little bit.
Yeah.
And then writing out like your pros and cons of why you want, like why you're doing it this way. Or what's your day? I mean, as nerdy as it sounds, what's the day going to be like if you don't do it? What's the day going to be like if you don't do it? And then nutrition, finding what works best for you, not Instagram, not Facebook, not whatever. What can you commit to? What is it? Macro counting? Is it portioning? Is it just a bowl a week? And owning that and knowing, okay, I really wish that I could macro, but I don't think I can do that right now. I'm just going to focus on one step a week. And that's, that's when you can look at nutrition and say, what am I doing right now that I know I should not be doing? Not should not, more like what's something that I'm doing now that's not going to get me to my goal?
Yeah.
Probably the cereal in the morning, or whatever it is. It's like, I probably don't need that.
Yeah.
So that's your first step. Cut it out.
Yeah.
Replace it with something like more nutritious if you're looking for a better breakfast or something. And then have that be your thing. So it can be very small and strategic, but if people have a hard time even knowing where to start that way, that's why accountability group or friend or coach is fun and nice to have, because they can help you line out those steps so that you're not going in a puzzle circle going, well, I want to do that, but how do I even do that?
Yep. Well, and Jason and I kind of have a lot of experience with this because, I mean, obviously we touch base with each other frequently now, and we'll just say like, hey, how's it going? Or I'll say like, I'm struggling with this, or Jason's like, oh my God, I'm still, whatever the case is. And just for he and I to be able to talk about like, well, what could you do differently? Or like, what could you mix up? It's not like we're coming up with any elaborate plan. I mean, it's literally like, well, maybe you should not buy those, or maybe you need to like move it in your pantry, or maybe you should try barbecuing it this way. It's just those little things and a little check-in that really allows us to make these changes in our days that don't require a lot of effort, but get us back on track.
And I think people try to do it solo, and I think when you try to do anything solo, it's easier to fall in between the cracks, because there's no one holding you accountable. There's no one that you can bounce ideas off of, and that's where I say for people that like want to spend money on a coach, or people who are like, I don't have time for that I could find a group, I could find a friend, having that conversation of like, what are you doing for breakfast? I'm sick of my breakfast. What are you doing? It just makes it a little more entertaining and fun than just trying to do things all by yourself, because it just only lasts for so long. And I am a coach, and I still have a coach.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I have a health coach that I use that I like. I have a therapist that I go to that I use that I like. That so like even for somebody who's motivated and this is something that I do for my job.
Yeah.
I still go to a CrossFit gym when I have a gym in my home.
Yeah.
I could literally go do the same thing there, but I go because it holds me accountable. One, I'm around people. Two, I thrive off social interaction. For me being an extrovert, not introverts are kind of like, I can work out by myself. That doesn't matter. But it holds me. It's a group of people that I thrive with when I'm there, and you always go a little bit harder. Always go a little bit harder. And so I think having that dynamic with a group or whoever always just helps. It just helps. And everybody's like-minded. Do we all eat the same at the CrossFit gym? No. We all eat completely different, but our goal is the same. We want to be healthy. We want to live long. We want our kids to see our routine and our path. And so we all are very like-minded, even though our goals can be completely different. And I think too many times people just kind of do it by themselves. And sometimes that can start out great and then kind of fizzle.
Well, it's just, it's interesting to hear how you do it, because Jason and I always say, right, like we really approach this as everybody has their recipe, right? And just like when you're cooking something, right? You try somebody's recipe and then you taste test it. And if, maybe you don't like a certain piece of it, but you like, 90% of what this recipe is. We're just here to see what everybody's recipe is, and then take from people what resonates with us and try it in our own recipe. That's all that we can do, right? Because what works for me is not going to be what works for Jason or for you. But I'm going to pick up a nugget from our conversation today that I'll be able to incorporate into my own recipe to make my life just as, exactly how I want it to be. And incorporating wellness, incorporating movement and nutrition is just something that we have to do to find success after bariatric surgery. And I don't know, I got a lot out of this conversation that I would have never thought of before, which is just like why I just freaking love doing this. It's just like all the time I'm like, oh, I would have never in a million years thought about that unless you would have said something.
Right.
That's pretty awesome. So Melissa, we always love to give our guests kind of like the floor at the end. Is there anything that we left unsaid, or is there, do you have a favorite quote or a saying that kind of helps you through tough times?
I think the part of the quote, it's not really even a quote, but the stuff that I say the most when I work with people is, like I said earlier today, like motivation comes just as quickly as it goes. And if you're solely working through motivation, that's not going to get you where you want to go. It's got to be consistency. It's got to be discipline over a period of time. And I think people just hate that word and those, like, oh, they want it right now. And they want things to happen really quickly. And being in the industry for as long as I have and putting myself through so many different types of, meal plans and regimens, and I wanted it fast. Like, why? Come on, it's been 5 days. Like, why do I not? And it's a process. And I think if people can understand that weight loss, weight gain, whatever your journey is a process. It's not a like tomorrow is your end date. They can mentally wrap their head around it. I think too often it's like there's this deadline. Well, why have a deadline? Like it should be on forever, because the longer you continue with something, you're gonna pick up more tips, or you're gonna figure out that your body does better on high carbs, or your body does better on low carbs. Like there's just all these different time periods, but if there's always a deadline for something, then I'm like, that's not wellness. That's you wanting a goal to be fit for something. And that's then what happens after that?
Yep.
It just is the goal, and then go back to start. Where if you can really just think of lifestyle changes and there is no end sight, you always will be evolving. I still evolve and want new goals and want new stuff to do, but I think if you can not have it be your motivation to get you there, maybe it starts something, but you've got to really know that no matter who you follow on Facebook or how awesome that they look or whoever it is, there's a discipline and consistency of however they're there. They didn't just get there overnight. They worked their ass off. And that might not show in all the, stuff that you see, but coming from an industry of doing this for so long, regardless of where you're at with your journey, sacrifice, hard work, dedication, all of that goes into it. It's not just something that happens by chance. People really work hard for it. And that's what I love about when people get wins, is celebrating that, because they put in the hard freaking work. It's people want it to be easy, and it can be easy and it can be super fun, but you have to know that there's days that aren't awesome. And there's times that you're like, well, like, why am I doing this again? And that's where I feel like having a group or having somebody to help you in those shitty moments can be like, hey, I know why you're doing this. Come on, let's go here. This is why you're doing it. I know why. And I think even all too now, even I grew up with a dad as a firefighter, and I married a firefighter. They see what people's lives are like at the end of health and not health. They see 80-year-olds that look like they're 50. They see 80-year-olds that look like they're 150.
Yeah.
And it's all your choice through your lifestyle, what you choose to do. And I think just, having them always talk about, oh man, this poor lady, like she was in her 50s, but her all the medicine and all these things that just lifestyle change that could have happened. I think in my mind ingrained, like at the end of it, you don't think about it right now at 38.
No.
But at 80, you can look back and be like, wow, like look at all the awesome steps that I did my whole life to get me to be the healthiest I am at 80 years old. Instead of being like, well, what if I would have started that at 60?
I know.
did try to change my nutrition on this, and I don't think, I mean, it's hard to look that far down the road, but I think just from living it, from
Mhm.
being, a daughter of dad who was a firefighter, and then Jordan being like, seeing this day in and day out when he goes on calls. It's not necessarily fire calls, it's sick people. And a lot of it comes from health. And I think if people can just like look down the road and say, oh, I'm going to take ownership of that now. And I might not be perfect and I might mess up and I might not look the way I always want to look tomorrow. But I think having that, like, towards the end of your life, knowing that you completely did everything that you could to just be the healthiest human being all over, you're never going to look back and be like, oh, I really wish I would have tried that. Because now, now I can't, and I really wish I would have.
Well, that's why, I mean, that's why we had bariatric surgery, right? We reached a point in our lives where we realized if we don't do something drastic, our lives are going to end in a way that we foresee and we don't want them to. So it's one thing to take the step and have the surgery and to recover from surgery, but the work really begins when you acknowledge the role that food has played in your life prior to surgery. And once you acknowledge that, then you kind of see what lies ahead of you. And if we're diligent and consistent and we plan and we put ourselves first and we do all the things, or we do some of the things that we talked about today, we are going to find lasting success. Because like what you said, there's no end goal here. The end goal is I'm going to die a happy, healthy person. And this is the rest of my life. So, it's shifting that mindset and knowing that we can take it one little step at a time, celebrate the small wins along the way. I think is motivating for us to continue to do the things that we want to do.
So many little small steps
Yep.
along the way, and just doing something is a win.
Yes. Yes.
Like,
yes.
Like, as funny as we joked about not having the milkshake and Tostitos, that's a win, those
Yes.
are wins
Yes.
for a long period of time that I hope people can celebrate themselves for that, because I just think a lot, you guys know a lot of people just they just see the end goal as their win.
Yep.
They don't realize, along the journey, and any nerdy CrossFit, documentary that I watch when people go to the games, it's never when they win.
Yeah.
Always reflect on all the shit, all the hard work, all the crying they did, all the sacrifices of not being with friends or whatever it is that got them to that podium. That's what they always talk about. Like, the win's great, but oh my God, all of the that's what the emotion comes from for people.
Yeah.
They put in fucking work and look where it got them. It's never like, oh, I win, I'm yay. It's always reflects back to all of that. And I think if people can just know that end goal isn't ever going to be as grandiose as you think it is, you're always going to reflect on all of the hard work that you did to get there. That's what fuels fires of like, oh man, I really did it. Like, I really worked my butt off, and I'm really excited about that.
Well, they say the joy's in the journey.
Totally.
And
we are, embrace it, and I think a lot of times people don't want to embrace it because they don't want it to be a journey sometimes.
Yeah. You just want it to be over. You want to be there, but that's not how any of this works. That's not how any of it works.
And I think too, and all obviously seriousness of like trying to plan your days and eat healthy and do right, like have fun too.
Yeah.
Live life a little bit. I mean, if you have a beer, oh freaking well, you had a beer. Like, you have to enjoy life too. It can't be all or nothing. It can't be, oh, I'm on this goal and nope, I'm not going to dinner with you because I gotta look like this, whatever. I always tell people, like, if you got a fun thing happening and you're trying to cut things out and you're trying to be really healthy, don't ever say no to like family birthday cakes or 4th of July shit. Like, have a glass.
Yeah, plan it.
Celebrate life, because it's not guaranteed a week from now. So like, you can still have very strict and diligent, however you want your journey to be, but don't be so rigid that you can't live life too. Because I feel oftentimes people get too rigid and then they oh shoot, I shouldn't have done that. I'm like, no, you should.
Yeah, because it kicks you into the shame cycle. Jason and I, we've been talking about this recently. Like, food is not contraband. Food is something that you need to think about. Food is something that you need to plan. But if you want to enjoy something, or if you want to indulge in something, then by all means do it. But do so within a plan. Make it a planned eating event. Don't make it an unplanned eating event.
Or start the next day, right back where you
Yeah.
don't get a vicious cycle of like, oh, poor, damn it.
Yeah.
I know what to do tomorrow. I messed up today. Tomorrow's a fresh start. I'm gonna be on it and drop it.
Yep.
But I always want people to celebrate life and have a good time and not get so caught up in all of it too, because I know it can be very 50-50 on the scale of like, I'm not touching this for this, and I didn't go to the happy hour because I'm on this. I'm like, but in reality, what if that was the last time you had happy hour with that person? Like, you never know. Like, you gotta still enjoy things in life, and then you can still be on a consistent plan, because it's not a deadline, it's a journey. Enjoy it still, and I think if people can enjoy that it is a journey, and enjoy that it's not a final destination to their goal, they're gonna have a lot more fun with it. They can live life and not feel like it's such I'm always on a plan, or I'm always trying to count food. It's no, I messed up last night, whatever, Mom, back on it today.
Yep. Oh yeah. Yep. Well, Melissa, we cannot thank you enough for your time. This conversation was enlightening and inspiring. We are leaving with all kinds of new things that we can do every day in our lives to live our best life after surgery. So we very much thank you for your time.
Thank you.
If you would like to follow Melissa, we highly recommend that you do. She is on Instagram at Harbor Total Wellness, and you could also visit her website at www.harbortotalwellness.com. Definitely give her a follow there. And if you enjoy what you like and see on the podcast, you can subscribe so that you'll be the first one to know when like new things drop. We would also love a rating, a review. And if you really, really love what you do, you can become a patron of the East to West WLS universe. And that just helps us make sure that the support that we love offering you continues to be free and open for everybody in this community. Jason, did I miss anything?
I don't think so. Melissa, thank you again so much for your time. It was very valuable information. I think everybody in our universe is going to get a great deal of information to take down and kind of attribute to their everyday life to help them be better in kind of what their overall goal is. So we just appreciate everybody for your support and listening and watching and following and all the things that you've been doing to help us keep to do what we love doing, which is helping you guys, because at the end of the day, it also helps us. So we thank you so much again. And at the end of the day, just remember, you've got this, we've got you, and we'll see you next time.
Awesome.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Melissa.
Bye-bye.